Everybody, thanks for watching. Now, I don't care how many videos I already have on the whole Hebrew Israelite doctrine and everything like that. It's too many people still falling for this doctrine. And of course, as I said before, I understand why. And it becomes a question of who is actually doing research and who is just following what they are hearing. Now, a lot of people listen to the doctrine and it makes sense. And it's people who love the Bible, who love Jesus and everything like that, but they don't necessarily believe in Christianity and everything that it's talking about, because you ask yourself, how can a Jesus or this guy be talking about, love and mercy and peace and everything like that, but then allow something like slavery to take place? So, of course, a lot of black people scratch their head on that, but they still have their emotions attached to the Bible and attached to these deities and Christianity. And the alternative for some people was Islam, and for other people now is the whole Hebrew Israelite doctrine. And it makes a lot of sense to a lot of people who are not doing the research. And it's nothing that you can say to some people to get them away from this doctrine. But there are some of you out there who are willing to listen to reason and who are still actively doing research and trying to figure out the truth, which is why I make these videos. And I have quite a few now on this doctrine. I still get messages. I still get questions about the Hebrew Israelite doctrine. And, as I talk about norepinephrine, how it kicks in, the fight or flight hormone, when a person sees something that goes against, their religion, their belief, something they have an emotional attachment to, they lash out. So, of course, most of the messages I get is straight up from the jump, negative, derogatory, calling me names and childish stuff like that because of the video that they don't watch. But as I said, there are some of you who want the truth, who want facts. And, we're going to get into that because I can't fathom how, so much information now, even when you look at some of the debates that have been put up on YouTube, that it's overwhelmingly proven what the Hebrew Israelite doctrine is and what the truth about the Bible is and what the facts are. Now, as I said, let's just take it from the beginning. I can understand how a lot of people think that the Bible is black history or real black history because it's talking about slavery and everything it talks about in Deuteronomy 28 that Hebrews point to. But you have to understand real proven history. Now, if you conscious enough, if you smart enough to escape from the bogus Christianity stuff that they've been feeding us for hundreds of years, then you're smart enough to comprehend what I'm about to say here. Yes, of course, Deuteronomy 28 is talking about black slaves in America. There is no way around that. But you have to understand, you believe that the King James Version is saying the exact same thing as Deuteronomy 28 2,000 years ago, which we do not have that manuscript that you believe Moses wrote. And you think King James, when he created his version, is saying the exact same thing as the manuscript that Moses wrote, over 2,000 years ago. So therefore, Moses had a prophecy saying that all this stuff would happen to black people, and it did happen as it says in the Bible. But you are not realizing that the King James Version was written between 1604 and 1611 when slavery was already going on. Slavery was already in full swing. So, of course, they knew about the yoke of iron. They already knew what was going on with the slaves, and they just simply wrote about it. So now understand what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is the King James Version, Deuteronomy 28 in the King James Version, is not the same as what Moses supposedly had written or what the oldest manuscripts say in Deuteronomy. King James put his own version in Deuteronomy 28. And the only way we can prove that is to go back and look at the older manuscripts and look at Deuteronomy 28 and see what it's saying. And you will see clearly that it's different from your King James Version because it's King James's version is not the same as the oldest one. So obviously King James had a different agenda from the oldest manuscripts. Now, when you go ahead and read, let's just use Deuteronomy 28:68, because what you're going to find is when you go back to look at the more ancient manuscripts with Deuteronomy, most of it is gone. So we know that the oldest complete, and I'm saying complete, not the oldest, but the oldest complete biblical manuscript would be Codex Sinaiticus. We can argue that it's the Ethiopian Bible, but that's up for debate, and I'm not going to get into that right now. But in any case, it does not say what it's talking about in Deuteronomy 28 in King James Version. So when we look at Deuteronomy 28:68, it says, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you." Now, when we look at Deuteronomy 28 in Codex Sinaiticus, which is the oldest complete biblical manuscript, it does not say anything in Deuteronomy 28:68 about Egypt or ships. The verse is not even that long when you take a look at it. It says, "Definite place there presents an enemy unto your child, and child run away and not be the inquiry." Says nothing about ships, nothing about Egypt. And when you go and look at the Peshitta, when you go look at the oldest biblical manuscripts, Deuteronomy 28 is not the same. This is why Hebrew Israelites need you to believe that King James is first a black man, and that King James had a spirit put on him to create the King James Version, because they know Deuteronomy is not the same when you go look at the older manuscripts. So now you got to believe that King James and his scribes had a spirit put on them to give us the correct translation of the Bible. You know, they had a spirit put on him, but you know, he gave us his version. God put a spirit on them, but it wasn't God's version. It wasn't the inspired word of God. It was the King James authorized version that we get. And that's something you got to think about. So now, of course, people will say, well, wait a minute, you can't use that Greek version. The Old Testament was written originally in Hebrew, but we can't prove that. This is something that they will not tell you either. We can't prove there was ever an original Torah or Tanakh or Old Testament in Hebrew. The original, officially, and I'm talking about the official explanation, the official proof, all the evidence and facts point to the official Old Testament Torah or Tanakh coming into existence that we actually have and possess in Greek, not Hebrew. So if you want to go back to the letters of Aristeas and look at what it's talking about, and this is the whole explanation of how we get our Bible in the first place. This is another thing they are not telling you, and it's another thing that you do not know when you follow this doctrine. You got to trace it all the way back and understand what you're following and where it has its inception. So we go all the way back to Ptolemy II Philadelphus, and we look at his decree to basically have the Hebrew law translated into Greek. And this is what the letters of Aristeas is talking about. So, according to the letters of Aristeas, you had Ptolemy II Philadelphus basically sent a letter to Israel to have 72 Hebrew elders, 6 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, to come to Alexandria, Virginia. I said Virginia. I keep saying Virginia. To come to Alexandria, Egypt, to do a translation of the Hebrew law into Greek. This is what the letters is talking about. So first of all, you got to believe that it was possible for them to find 6 elders from each of the 12 tribes of Israel at that time. That's one thing. Then they came all the way to Alexandria, Egypt to do this translation. And supposedly, when you read the letter, it goes into detail about all the stuff that that Ptolemy II Philadelphus gave to the Greeks and to the Jews. And he freed slaves and passed laws that said if any Greeks keep Jewish slaves, that they will be enslaved themselves and all kinds of stuff. So you got to accept that as well. So supposedly they came to do this translation. 72 Hebrew elders did the translation, and it supposedly took them 72 days, and they translated this whole thing. And we get the Septuagint from that. The Septuagint means 70. So I'm going through this whole thing fast because I want to make a quick video because everybody's saying the videos are too long. So let me go through it quickly and give y'all the facts. So Septuagint means 70. So this is how the Bible comes into existence officially, through the Septuagint Greek. There is no proof, no evidence that this ever took place, first of all. There's no evidence, there's no proof that these 72 elders brought with them Hebrew Torah or Tanakh or what have you, or whatever they used to do this translation, if this translation ever occurred. Now, on top of that, when you look at Greek history, I'm talking about proven Greek history, it completely contradicts the letters of Orestes. First of all, we know about Hellenization. We know the Greeks was enforcing Hellenization throughout Israel. So why would they even care about having a Hebrew law if they are trying to force Hellenization on the Jews? It don't make sense. Why would you even want the book in the first place? Supposedly, according to the letters of Orestes, to basically say that, well, we have the same religion, we have the same beliefs, but we just call our gods different names. All of it is bullshit, and every scholar believes that the letters of Orestes is not as old as they say it is, and that the whole thing is bogus. So now understand what that means if scholars believe that the letters of Orestes is fake. A letter does not prove anything. So we can't look at this letter face value and read it, especially when it contradicts the actual real proven history of the Greeks and what they was doing. We can't look at this letter and say it is the end all, the overall, truth of where the Bible come from. So understand, again, in case you can't comprehend this, officially, this is where your Bible begins. This is how it starts. So if the letters of Orestes is bogus, where the hell did this come from? So we have what we can prove. The possession, the creation, the inception of the Bible begins with the Ptolemaic Greeks. Now wrap your head around that and think about that. Look at the proof and the facts, and this is what you'll see. So we can't find no proof before the Ptolemies of where this book came from. It has its inception and with the Ptolemies, and this letter is the only thing that backs it up, which, as you read, all scholars believe that it's bogus and it was actually written after the fact, and they lied on the date. So we don't know. It's just all of a sudden, poof, we get the Septuagint Greek given to us by the white fake pharaoh Ptolemy II Philadelphus, who conquered a bunch of black people and conquered through the Persians and everything, and stole land and killed people, and basically crowned himself a pharaoh in Kemet. So this is where your book begins. So again, you can't get any other book, any other biblical manuscript you want to read without first the Septuagint. So it's no proof that a black man had anything to do with this book as far as what we can prove. So again, when you go back, you gotta research the start of this. I know the story sounds all well and good, what these Hebrews talk about. I know it sounds like something that could be plausible, but you have to do real research and go back and look and check and see what the facts is saying. And it gets much deeper than this when you go back. As I said, I have more videos on the situation, but we can't simply accept the letters of Orestes since it contradicts everything. And we can't find any proof. All the little fragments, and I know a lot of people want to go to a lot of the stelas, and they look at so many things to try to prove the validity of the Hebrews, but the simple fact is real people who actually existed never spoke about them. We don't find any artifacts that's like, major. All these little pieces of pottery, shards, and everything that could be easily faked, look like a little kid wrote on them. None of them are 100% proven to be real. And that's another thing a lot of people are not understanding. It's not a definitive yes on any of this stuff. And when you read what Jewish scholars are even saying, the Jewish scholars can just say, well, yeah, it is real, just to help their own cause. But they're saying themselves, they know these artifacts, we don't know if this is, Hebrew or Paleo Hebrew or what this stuff is. It's not what we expect it to be for the time period, as far as, the Hebrews running around and having this language and dominating everything. You don't see what you're supposed to see from the Hebrews in antiquity if they were doing what the Bible says they was doing. So this is what we find. The simple fact that you go back to the Ptolemies, where all this stuff began after they conquered. We know about Ptolemy, the first Soter. We know about Serapis. We actually, Frank Gaudio found the statue. So if anybody ever thought that was a myth, Frank Gaudio, when he found the sunken city of Heraklion, using the writings of Herodotus, he found the statue of Serapis. So we know when we read about Serapis, we know it's not no bullshit. We found the statue of Serapis in Kemet, in the sunken city of Heraklion, when Frank Gaudio went there and found it using the writings of Herodotus, which is why I always go to Herodotus, because Herodotus can be counted on. A lot of his writings have been proven true, and Frank Gaudio found the whole sunken city because of his writing. So, a lot of the Hebrews want to say, oh, well, you're using white scholars and you're reading white people stuff, so I can't trust none of it. Well, it's proven. It's proven the stuff that we pointing to. We're not reading it and saying, we believe everything that they're saying, but we can read what they're talking about and find the actual proof that we can touch and see. And that's what Frank Gaudio did when he found Heraklion, and we found the statue of Serapis and everything else. So all this stuff is backed up. We know these people existed. We can't find none of these people that they're talking about in the Bible. We can't find Moses. There's no proof Moses ever existed. We can't find all these characters, and everything points to it being bogus. And the biggest thing you have to really think of if you want to get spiritual, because I know you people like to just get real emotional and spiritual about the religion. Why would God not preserve the book?